from a distance. Please welcome Anya.
I don't even have to introduce myself, which is what I was going to do initially. I'm Anya. I'm a sophomore at Yale. I'm a theater studies major. Thank you, Brad. Part of the reason I am a theater studies major up there in the last row. So I'd like to thank Kasia and Mr. Leonard for contacting me to come today because I actually have a lot to say. Being in my second year at college, I think gives you, like Mr. Leonard said, looking at prep from a distance. So, first of all, going to school on the East Coast, being from the Southwest, is an interesting experience. A lot of people ask me if I'm excited to see my first snowfall, and I like politely have to explain what a high desert climate looks like. And I've had to explain the intricacies of green chili more times than I thought. It was really possible. I thought chili was brown. No, not the same thing. Which actually is something that is a kind of unifying factor for all of my classmates. So I become pretty protective of my Santa Fe experience, and prep is, to me, an inextricable part of that legacy. So I've been thinking, and if I had to condense what I got from prep in one sentence, I would have to say that prep taught me that I'm fully responsible for my academic experience. So having the luxury of being in classes with no more than 17 people that were predicated on discussion, prep taught me that the level of work that I put into my studies was directly correlated with the inspiration and excitement that I took out of them. So at prep, we learned the value of synthesis, which I'm really big on. At being a theater studies major and trying to explain to people why I'm a theater studies major, synthesis is a really good buzzword. So our curriculum was not dictated by some set of standardized norms for the most part. So both the material we got to grapple with and our freedom in interpreting it through essays and projects was very broad. So as I said, I'm constantly trying to find the balance between art and theory in my major. And that's also something prep allowed me to start getting a jump on when I was very young. So essay topics were broad enough that I could really focus on something that I was interested in. So my teachers would be like, why don't you write this paper on Euripides? You like theater, why don't you write this paper on Ibsen? And I did. And my senior history thesis, which was a 15-page paper I wrote on the photography of Richard Avedon, not because we had talked about it, but because my teachers trusted me enough that I could find a way to condense it and figure out why it mattered to what I had learned already. And so when I was thinking back on that, and I tell my friends what I got to do and the discussions I got to have in high school, and they're just really interested and shocked by it, I realized that we had so much trust put on us here that we would be able to make those inroads by ourselves. So it was our job to figure out what connections were. It wasn't spoon-fed to us. We had to find those research inroads by ourselves, which is a crucial thing coming into college if you know that already. So therefore, when I got to college, I realized that I had been learning without my training wheels, so to speak, for longer than I kind of realized. So I'd already been taught the importance of tailoring research to individual tastes, and I still refused to choose a topic that wasn't 100% fascinating to me. Because there is no reason, and I learned at high school, there is no reason to do that if you are not completely committed, and it won't be any fun. And learning is fun. So I never had to experience the small fish in big pond syndrome because I was lucky enough to go into a major with 30 people in my class. So I still am in a program with like very supportive faculty who all know me by name, but even in my larger lecture classes, because I have taken some, we don't have many, but when my professor said, please come to me if you have questions or you want to have supplemental discussions, most people shied away from that. Like, they can't possibly want that. They can't possibly want to talk to you, really. But I learned from prep that, like, that's probably true. I've learned that adults are pretty awesome and good to talk to, so I was able to make use of that very quickly, and I did go, and I did talk to my professors, and realized that they were just as invested in me and my happiness as my teachers here at prep were. And so part of the reason I have that, and part of the reason when I talk to my friends that I graduated with, they are also, whether they're at larger schools or smaller liberal arts schools, also finding that because of what we learned. So I looked at this speech yesterday and realized this morning that what I'm actually trying to talk about is the difference between apathy and engagement. Like, that's what I've been saying, and I didn't really realize until I looked at it this morning. The difference between thinking that the world is qualified and categorized and flat and in books versus understanding that it's multiplicitous and all around us. If you're taught not to be apathetic in your education, it's very hard to be apathetic in your life, I've found. The thing that I will say for prep students is that they're the most engaged group of people of their age that I have seen anywhere, and I continue to be awed from afar about what is going on and what people that were very young when I left are taking into their hands now. The idea that we had a special pocket in our schedule here to do community service and engage in the community is something that my friends do not understand at all and are completely awed by. Because it taught us to understand the interdependence of communities here, and that's something that I've taken to college, and that's something that my friends have understood from me. To understand that learning, as much as it appears singular, as much as we ask ourselves when we're ever going to need to write that proof again, and maybe you won't, we never learn in a vacuum. Everything I was taught here encouraged to find by myself here, I know I will use in some way later, because I found it myself. So I can always recall it. It's like creating a bank of things that you just repurpose and reuse in different ways as a theater studies major in an English class, anything. So whether it be essays on Ibsen or women on India that I have called up in discussions because I remembered that I found something really great that I forgot, and I still have those. So I was like, actually this quote, and people are like, where did you find that? And I was like, I did that research in sophomore year. And they're like, so a lot of people in my class took a gap year to understand how to repurpose their education in the world and then bring it back into a classroom setting. So whether you did that or whether you went straight on to college, prep students understand that bank of learning. So this might not be something you realize until you're hundreds or even thousands of miles away from here, but you'll catch yourself getting excited and remembering something from prep. I certainly have. Something you found and understand in a different way than your peers, and that, I believe, is the true gift that this school offers.